I'm Jacob Adams. I'm a fitness and leadership coach. I help people just like you get to the next level, whether it's in the gym, you're on YouTube, getting through some philosophy, psychology, mindsets to get us to that next level. I'm here today with Matt Gold in the beautiful state of California. Matt, do you want to tell them a little bit about yourself?
I'm super honored to be here. Jacob and I have known each other for several years, and I'm really grateful for our friendship and our conversation throughout the years. We touched base recently. Involved to be here today. I remember when uploading the videos was absolutely amazing. And it's amazing to be here again. So I just want to say thank you. I'm grateful. And to the question you asked about myself, my name is Matt Gold. I'm a licensed acupuncturist, and I own Holistic Health Applications. And what I do is I'm a stress management expert. So I help people de-stress. There's all sorts of stress in life, whether you're doing a live stream and there's a technical issue, or whether you're at work and the work itself isn't progressing, or the people at work are causing issues. There's always stress in life. And the goal is really to create a healthier, happier you. And the way that is performed in my practice and in my business is that I teach people step by step what they can do in order to de-stress and unwind their life.
We have a very similar goal. Like I know that you're saying you're definitely wanting to reduce stress, and then I'm into this like next level idea. But really, if you think about it, to get happier, everyone's after that joy, that happiness, and that's like the next level of joy, the next level of accessing happiness within self and stuff like that. Would you?
Absolutely. And a lot of times with my clients, one of the things that I recommend is like becoming active, right? And referring them to someone like you. Like you need to become more active. You need to sweat. You need to detox your system. Because when you sweat and you're active, right, the lymph starts to detox. The immune system gets healthier. You start to push out those poisons and those toxins, or that stagnation that's been in the system over time, and they come to you and they can get much healthier. Yeah.
Toxicity. What a great way to segue into stress, toxicity, and I think what a lot of our viewers are here for is the discussion of relationships in modern culture. So, let's get right into it. Modern dating, modern love, the hookup culture, toxic relationships, and those are our loaded words there. Okay, Matt, do you have anything to add to that? I mean, just kind of get right into that conversation. To get people to frame it for the people that are watching. Me and Matt talked on the phone about a week ago before this conversation happened, and Matt, is this kind of the way you saw it too? Like, I tell people, look, I read autobiography of Yogi in 2007. I actually started meditating, even though I said I would do it in 2007. I didn't start really actively doing it until 2014, 16. And here we are. And what I found really interesting about that conversation with Matt was that we have very similar perspectives on modern dating. And when I say this, even though like some people might say, well, you're a yogi, you probably have like all these weird perspectives. It's like, no, actually, like I don't. My perspectives are pretty standard to modern men. And Matt, I thought, also had similar viewpoints. And I was like, wow, so we're yogis, but like we have very similar perspectives of dating. And that really was like a wow moment for me. Matt, do you remember that?
Yeah, absolutely. And it is, we come from different cultural backgrounds, and we had different paths, but we got to a similar place. And I find that in journeys, people often end up at similar places, but they do. They have to mark their own path. They have to walk their own road. They have their own unique sets of karmas and hardships and blessings and gifts, and they have to use all of those in a ways and means whereby they're able to not just legitimize, but to actualize what it is that they are aiming for. And if they don't know what they're aiming for, then you lose your path, you lose your way, right? We've all been there, whether it's for a minute or an hour, a day or a month or years, when we don't have an aim. And then without that aim, life becomes kind of chaotic, because it's like, well, what in the world am I doing? Like, well, I don't know, because I don't have an aim. I don't have something I'm aiming for. But when we have that aim, then the universe will, in my experience, and via what I've been taught by the teachers and the great ones, is that is that the universe will display and show the paths that a soul is able to walk to return and get back to God when the aim is God, when the aim is, and if you don't like that word, it doesn't matter. It's just a word. It's just a representation. We can use the divine. We can use the higher power. You can use Brahman. You can use the universe. You can use consciousness. All of these words are symbolic. Words are symbolic by definition. Words are incredibly important. Language, one of the things that separates us from other life forms on the planet. So it's incredibly important, but they are just symbols. And so the way to get back to the divine is by walking the path that God displays and God shows. And when we do that, those people that are walking the path, and when the aim is God, they often cross paths, as you and I did. And as you and I, our paths crossed again after not speaking, like for quite a while, like I think it had been years actually. And then we started again. And why? Because our paths, again, we have similar aims, and they crossed at the same, and they crossed, and in that crossing point, we were able to really relate to each other.
Yes, yes. And so we're going to get into the modern love, modern belief, all that. And we're both yogis. So before we get into that, for the audience that, I think people think of yoga, of course, doing the poses and pro pose and all that, which is great. I've taught yoga for a while, and I like the poses and all that. Now, for the sake of this discussion, what do we want to tell the viewer a yogi is for the sake of this particular conversation? When we say we're both yogis, what can the viewer count on that to actually mean? And if someone's a doctor, okay, he has access to medicine, he gives you prescription, he can diagnose your symptoms, certain illness. That's what a doctor is. So what is a yogi for the sake of this conversation?
That's a really good question. So yogi, for the sake of this conversation, since we'll be talking about yogi in modern times, we'll go with the classical definition. So the classical definition of a yogi is someone who consciously contacts, someone who, consciously contacts God or consciously communes with God. So a yogi is a practitioner of scientific techniques that result in self-realization. So that's a yogi. And there are so many techniques, right? So you and I practice Kriya Yoga. Paramahansa Yogananda teaches Kriya Yoga. There's lots of yogis out there, self-realized masters out there that teach Kriya Yoga. It was brought down by Mahavatar Babaji, and was taught to Lahiri Mahasaya. Lahiri Mahasaya had lots of disciples. Those disciples have disciples. They start organizations. One of Lahiri Mahasaya's foremost disciples was Swami Sri Yukteswar Giri, the Mahagyan avatar. Lahiri Mahasaya is the Mahayogi avatar. And they had lots of disciples. So someone can learn Kriya Yoga from any one of these disciples who's in the lineage. And there's lots of people in the lineage tracing back to Mahavatar Babaji. Mahavatar Babaji's empowered many people to do Kriya Yoga. Now, Kriya Yoga, it's a breath technique. It's not a breath technique. It's a prana technique, and it moves prana within the spine, up and down the spine to clean. So there's Kriya Yoga. Kriya Yoga is a type of scientific technique that helps people get to God. Now, there's different types of yogis. There's 4 basic types, right? So there's a bhakti yogi. Bhakti means love. So basically, it's a yogi of love, and that's where you love everything, and you get to God through love. And so a lot of Christians and a lot of Muslims, a lot of those who identify with Christianity and who identify with Islam, they're mostly bhakti yogis. They love God, right? They love Christ. They love Muhammad, right? They love their deity, and that's how they get to God. Another way, so that's bhakti yogi. Another way to get to God is through karma yoga. Karma yoga acts of service, right? There's people who dedicate their lives to nonprofit organizations, who dedicate their lives to helping others, to Habitat for Humanity, right? To missions, to going and preach, right? So they are getting to God through service, okay? Now there's Jnana yoga, which is Jyana. This is getting to God through wisdom, or through wisdom. And so you can study these ancient scriptures. People who read the Bible, like every year, like they read the whole Bible, or every 2 years they read the whole Bible, and they're constantly studying, they're constantly reading ancillary texts, they're constantly going back and doing other things and learning. These people, they are yogis of wisdom, right? And they're getting to God through wisdom, which is a dry path. It's kind of a hard path, but it's very liberating, right? It's very beautiful. Now, finally, there's a Raja Yogi, R-A-J. Raja Yogi means royal yogi, and a royal yogi is a combination of the other 3, and they do those plus these like techniques, scientific techniques, such as Kriya Yoga, There's other types of yoga too, right? Or other types of techniques to get you God. And so for the sake of this conversation, a yogi will be defined as there's yogi and yogini technically, but we'll probably just say yogi. And yogi in this case, since we're defining the word, would be any soul that consciously seeks to form union with God.
Okay, and thank you so much. That was awesome, Matt. So now you said that the end goal being self-realization. So there you are. You're Matt Gold. I realize that you're Matt Gold. You told me you're Matt Gold. You have a nice background over there. You have some cool mall necklace. So I realize that you're there. Have I realized you by identifying these facts?
Have you realized me? I don't know. I don't know, but the goal is not self-realization. The goal is God. When you get to God, someone becomes self-realized. It's like a measuring point. Actually, the self-realization is like enlightenment. Enlightenment's not actually like the goal. The goal is God, and on the path you become enlightened. You become full of light. The chakras, organs, meridians, nadis, and subtle bodies, they become like a crystal type, like crystalline in a sense, a very real sense, and then more light shines through. So to be enlightened means more light shines through. It's like you can constantly be enlightened. You can have more light flowing through you, and that is the process of enlightenment, such as the process of evolution back down. You have to become more and more continually enlightened, right? You need more light flowing through you, and then the light dispels the dark. So the light shineth on the darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not, right? Light dispels the darkness.
Okay, and that we are actually going to connect that to modern day now, the whole enlightening, bringing light into the chakras, and what that has to do. So, but last question about self-realization. Why is realizing self important? In other words, like, okay, man, I'll put it like this.
Sure.
I didn't think that I just signed up for lessons with Self-Realization Fellowship Church, and it took me like a few years to be like, oh, so they're pretty serious about this whole self-realization. like I was like, oh, like the name is actually like objective too. In other words, it could just sound like, it sounds like, okay, self-realization, whatever. But why is realizing self important at all? Like, how is that even relevant? Like, I'm Jacob, there I am, I realize self. Like, what level are we talking about?
Sure, that's a very good question. So it also took me several years to sign up for the lessons. So you're not alone on that, and that happens. Self-Realization Fellowship, founded by Paramahansa Yogananda, just came out with a new set of lessons at the beginning of the year. I just signed up for them. We're on like 12 or something. Like it's really, or the organization has sent out 12. Like it's really wonderful. They're wonderful things to study. And there are lots of wonderful things to study out there that are true scriptures that lead that help someone know the divine more. And so your question was, why do you have to realize the self? Well, first of all, it's not me that I'm realizing. It's not the self. It's God. Self-realization is like, I am not separate from God, and God is not separate from me. First, there was nothing. Like that, nothing existed. It was just God. And then God created everything, right? The darkness and the light, and brought everything into being. And when everything is no longer in existence, God will still be. And so the self is that I'm not separate from the divine. I being the soul, the I am, the capital I, capital A, capital M, the proper noun, right? It's a title, I am. So I am who I am, as God said to Moses out on Mount Sinai. Moses said, who is it that if they ask me your name, who is it that I shall tell them? And he says, I am who I am. And so that is, in an essence, what self-realization is. I am who I am. I am what I am. I am where I am. I am when I am. I am who, what, where, when, why. I am why I am, right? And so I'm not realizing me. I'm not even important. The doer here is the divine. The doer here is God. I'm sure you studied, what's his name? He wrote The Power of Now. Eckhart Tolle, thank you. Wonderful soul, wonderful being, very advanced soul. So Eckhart Tolle, he talks about, he's a non-dual teacher. He's a non-duality teacher. He's absolutely amazing. And he teaches about becoming the witness to the self, right? So are you your emotions? No. No, you witness your emotions. Are you your thoughts? No, you witness your thoughts. Are you your actions? No, you witness your actions. So if I'm not the actions, and I'm not the emotions, and I'm not the thought, and I'm not the mind, the mind's just a subtle instrument of the soul. What am I? I am the soul. I'm a child of God. So what I'm realizing is that I am a child of God, and that I am is actually a title for the soul. I'm realizing that I am the soul and I am the child of God, and there's no separation. And anything that is separating from me is ego, and that's the blockage that the yogi seeks to burn.
So now let's get into the modern day conundrum that we framed it for our people to understand our dialogue as yogis and people that study meditation. Like, so we talked about that juicy stuff. And now we're going to go into kind of like where a viewer would be more interested to see, which is modern love, modern dating, hookup culture. Where do people like you and me find ourselves in this modern culture of dating? I'll give you a conversation I had with a client today. I said, if you're looking to be like a player, you know, sleep around, hookup culture, if you're looking for that in today's society, you're in love. Because it's prevalent, it's respected, it's prevalent, it's respected, it's actually like celebrated. So if you're looking to be a player, have multiple relationships, and kind of like stick around and not get your emotions, that's, I think, where we're at as a society, as a whole. And like if you're looking for a family, to have your family, loyalty, live in God consciousness, you know, live for God, live in love, you know, all of these, like, I think things of a higher characteristic, you're going to find yourself sort of going up against a stream here. Okay, so there you go. There's the conversation you have with a client. The ball's in your court. What do you think?
Well, what was the client? What did he want to know, or she? I don't know if it was. What were they interested in?
Well, we discussed dating and stuff like that. Okay, so it was just a conversation we were having. I told her, hey, I'm going to interview. I'll be talking to this guy Matt. You know, so I kind of framed it like, and so this is. So you as a yogi, like, how are you? Like, you have all these teachings, you know, like you're meditating, you're into holistic stress reduction, you know, you're going through these things, right? How is that fitting into a modern marketplace where, like, you know, Drake is one of the key pop stars of today, you know, like it's like you know, Instagram booty models are a thing that is acknowledged and rewarded. You know what I mean? So like,
yeah,
get it, like, you know, the hookup culture, whether it's through Tinder or whatever. Like these are things. These are literal like consonants moving in the marketplace. And here we are, and I'll say you are. You're this yogi, you're meditating, and you're looking to increase light into your like. How are you seeing the modern? You know, I don't think you got into meditation and becoming a yogi to be like a player. I don't think so. Am I wrong? Or I mean,
no, definitely not. Relationships with the opposite sex were not actually a factor in my decision to study yoga or to meditate. And so first of all, anybody can study this stuff. Like, it's available for free or for nominal fees. Like, you can study any of this literature, like these teachings. I just happen to read a lot. And so, but anybody can read this stuff. Even if you don't read a lot, you can read a little bit and know more than most. But what's important is that you want to do it. So you can get the Lessons from Self-Realization Fellowship. You can go to Astara, ASTARA.org, and get lessons there. There's lessons by Master Choa Kok Sui. I think it's called PranichealingUSA.com. You can get books over there on Arhatic Yoga. There's all sorts of different schools that teach wonderful things. And so I'm not special. Like, this information is readily available to all sorts of people if you choose to study it. But I studied it a lot.
Do you want me to ask you the question again?
No, I just wanted to, you said that I had all these teachings, and I just wanted to make sure that everybody has these teachings available. So
that's right. You're consistently a very compassionate individual that likes to share. So in case people, that's something I noticed.
I will get to the questions since you brought it back up. Thank you. I do have a tendency to ramble and I get on tangents, so bring me back as whenever you deem it appropriate. I'm happy to do that.
Care about the people getting information. Much love. That's why I'm interviewing you. That's why we're here.
So, a yogi in modern culture. So what's the goal? The goal is God, right? And so if the goal is to date as many women as possible, then someone can do that. I know that when I dated multiple women, not only did it not go well and was it a disaster, but I was absolutely miserable, and found no gratification or satisfaction that. And in fact, when dating more than one person at the same time, life was so complicated and so dramatic that it was like nightmarish. And so that is, and why did I try that? Because I didn't know any better. Right? It's not that I didn't know any better. So I had no experience in that, and everything in the environment, from the marketing to the media to the music to the shows, was saying that like this is a wonderful thing to do. This is, like you said, easy. It's idealized. You can do all these things. But my endeavors and experience in that has been absolutely miserable. I was aimless. Like I didn't have an aim. I was listless. I didn't know what I was doing. I was constantly trying to get like a female's attention or validation, or sexual gratification. And in attempting to do these things, not only did I, and whether I was successful or unsuccessful in that endeavor, like when I was alone or by myself, like I was not happy. I didn't have an aim. I was listless. I was miserable. I was depressed. I was anxious about what was going to happen next. And it didn't provide any lasting happiness, joy, satisfaction. There was no permanent gain. And in fact, the gains started becoming less and less and less and less. And so then the question became, it's a question of fidelity. Fidelity is like doing the same thing over and over again, or remaining true to yourself. So the question of fidelity, it's like, if I do I want someone to treat me or be with me the way that I am treating and being with these other people? And then you can reflect on that. And then it's okay, I'm studying all these teachings about like loyalty and being with God and loving God and expressing oneself to the divine and meditating on God every day. And every soul is a child of God. So then it's, well, am I practicing? So like if the person that I'm with or that I want to date is a child of the divine, am I treating the God in that person appropriately? And I found out that I was not. I wasn't. And so for me, it became like I want to honor the God in that person as I honor the God flowing through the soul, as I love God. And what I want is to be with God. And God, if God chooses, will provide a partner in which together we can be closer with God, and we can help each other get to God. And you can and if that's what you want, God will provide those things at the appropriate time. Yeah.
Yeah, that was I got a lot from that. Hopefully, everyone's watching. I'm going to share some Instagram, so I'll get some clips and share some highlights for me. But I do really, man, I do really like relate to, let's say, for me, my wake up moment was in 2012. I like to say everything was going in the right direction. I had my bank, I had a good physique, car, house, I had a girlfriend. I was flying in and out of city, Houston to South Texas, and like that, it was like a pinnacle of success for me. And it's I'm sure other people have way higher pinnacles. I'm not trying to put down myself. I'm saying for me, it was a pinnacle of my success, of my growth. And I saw that there was cyclical patterns in my relationships. Like I'd be with someone for a year or 2 years, and eventually power struggles would come in, and the ego would want to win those power struggles. And it's been said, do you want a relationship or do you want to be with?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And a lot of the times I wanted to be right with you. And so like I saw myself sort of, I said, it's me that's eventually like breaking things apart for this rightness to be right, or the power struggle, or the selfishness. And that day, I'm at my desk and I would carry Man's Eternal Quest, the book by Yogi, the essays, and I would carry it throughout 2008 everywhere I go and have it on my desk or something. Just like, I pick it up, I'm feeling like in my shit. I'm like, I'm fucking, ugh. And so I open it and it said, powerful line was, your time will come. And when it does, you'll ask yourself, that I need time to get to know me. Referring to God, of course, right? And that was what floored me internally. Like that was my shit, man. I don't know. That's some real shit. And so that's where that's where I decided to get on West, and I decided to get into meditation, taking going on for postponement. And then 2015, that's when I met you in Austin, and that's when you saw me kind of biting the bullet and saying, let me walk away from the past and develop this. And I've been seeing it for 4 years, and I told you, so I started dating again. And really work on that relationship with you and God. And I'll tell you, man, you know, I've had to not force, like it's not been like, get out there, Jacob. But I've enjoyed my time single so much that I kind of had to be told, like, you better get out there, or you like being single too much. And it's true, because I'm glad I started dating again, because it's a little bit too happy being single. Like, so anyways, what do you think about that? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, it's important that we get right with ourselves. And when I say right, I don't mean right versus wrong. So that was probably an improper word choice. It's important that we get aligned with ourselves, and that we have virtues, that we have an ethos and ethics, that we adhere to a philosophy of life, and that we have aims and goals. And it although it matters to what they are to large degrees, if you don't have any, well, dear Lord, just get some and try them out and practice them. Like you got to start somewhere, you know.
Dear Lord. Dear Lord.
So, you know, just find a philosophy, and practice it. And even if you find that philosophy after some time is not serving you, at least you'll have practiced something and you get good at it. So when you find the next philosophy, you'll be able to apply it even better than you applied the previous one. Like, you're going to develop skill sets and qualities from it, you know, improve yourself. And so it is, you know, I don't know exactly how much time, but yeah, I very much kept to myself and did not date for two, I don't know, 2.5 or 3.5 years. I'd have to look at a calendar. And it was about me, and I was being very selfish. But selfishness is not an inherently evil thing, although everybody in Western culture seems to think it's bad, but then they constantly advertise narcissistic tendencies and behaviors and qualities like this all over. So it's kind of ironic or juxtaposed. But I was selfish in that I hoarded my time for myself, and in doing so, I focused on myself and on my relationship with God, because it's the only lasting relationship. And then in transitioning out into the world, it was very I don't know about complicated, but it was complex, because it's like, now there's another being, and this is a living, breathing human being with all their own chakras, meridians, nadis, and subtle bodies, with all their own stuff, with 30 years or 40 years of life, right? And they have their own needs and responsibilities and habits and routines. And at first, being with somebody and negotiating those things was very challenging, right? Because I was very self-consumed and self-oriented. Now I'm in a doctorate program for acupuncture and Chinese medicine, and so when I say self-consumed, it's not like I was just like at home, like doing random things. Like I've been focused on my career and my life and my studies and my experiments and writing these papers and getting these papers published. So I've been focusing on these aims, but then all of a sudden, dealing with a whole person, like, people are complicated. And I didn't have a lot of experience in dealing with that recently. And the experience that I did have was a long time ago, and I was a totally different person. And so it's important to move out of the home of taking care of the self, moving out into the environment, into the community, and meeting people and starting to spend time with them. And I think the first person I dated, it was like, you know, less than a couple weeks, and then like it all fell apart. And I had no idea what I was doing. Absolutely none. And it was very confusing. I didn't know if I was to lead or to follow, or to be more yin or more yang, or to serve them as an aspect of the divine, or how do I serve them versus the relationship, versus keeping boundaries, versus honoring myself, versus, you know, I had no idea. And that's part of what it is. It's like I had to go out there and practice and fail. You know, I had to go out there and find all these shortcomings, which were innumerable, right? And experience all these things. It's like, wow, this is really challenging.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, yeah. So how do you, like, in the dating world, like, when do people typically find out that you are into, I guess, this manifestation of light? I could say yogi, but I think that it's fair to say that even beyond that word, I get from you that you're devoted to manifesting light. Can you handle that description of yourself?
I'm sorry, I cut out just a little bit at the end. Can you repeat the question?
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm saying, like, I think that there's like an image, like there's like an avatar. Like there's an avatar of like the typical, cool dude for dating, which is like slightly like a player type person that likes to look up. He's emotionally not available, like kind of like, detaches. There's like an avatar, like fit
Sure,
person.
yeah, yeah.
There's this avatar that is celebrated in Hollywood. Is a ladies' man concept, right? And so my question to you is, like, how does the dating atmosphere respond to you as a yogi, or like someone that manifests light, someone that is out to cure you, you're out to cure suffering?
Sure. I was just taking notes. Okay, so the avatar, like so that would also be called like an archetype. Like the traditional avatar of this male is also called an archetype, like in classical literature. And so you look up archetypes. So like if you Google avatar, lots of things will come up. If you Google archetype, you'll get what we're talking about if you want to learn no more about archetypes. And so that's like Casanova, right? The Casanova, right? The archetype of Casanova, right? The man that is very self-confident, right? That's very successful, that's emotionally closed off, that's absolutely dominant in the room, that's an alpha male, or a sigma male, and all the women are attracted to him, right? And so how do you balance that with the bringer of light? And that's a good question. It's well, what attracts women to men like that? And it's like, well, I don't know, but I've read a bunch of studies, and I've read a bunch of research, and there are some things that increase male attractiveness level. And one of those is being successful. And it doesn't matter what even what you're successful at. You just need to be successful at it. It doesn't mean in terms of like wealth and money and prosperity and cars. It's just, what do you do? Are you a social worker? Like, are you a really good social worker? Like do you feed people? Are you really good at feeding people? Are you a chef? Are you a really good chef? Like women value ability. Like, it's been shown that women value ability. What else do women value? And so women are attracted to men whose feelings are not clear. It has been demonstrated over and over and over and over again that a woman's attractiveness level increases as when she does not know how the man feels about her. And that's demonstrated over and over and over again. It's also been demonstrated, and this is scientific knowledge. Like, this is not debated about in the scientific community. Like, these are facts, and they've been known for decades and decades and decades. And so women are not attracted to men who are like harmless per se. They don't find them attractive at all. In fact, it's like there's a reaction, right? And they actually don't like them. It's the opposite of attraction. And so there are different things that females are attracted to. And the archetype exemplifies all this. That's what archetypes do. And so as the archetype exemplifies all this, it's okay. But archetypes typically have shortcomings, right? And I guess I don't know enough about Casanova to know his shortcomings. But I can share that those things, that the single point that I'm sorry. So contrasting that versus a bringer of light, it's like, my goal is not to bring light. My goal is to meditate on the divine every day. That's my goal. And then as a result, I do acts of service. And so when you asked me, like, hey, do you want to do this interview? And I looked at my schedule and I was like, I am so busy. That this is really, like, July is like one of the busiest months in compared to June, July, and August. Like, July is twice as busy as those months. And I was like, no. But then I was like, you are being asked to serve. And so that's my ego saying no. And you are being asked to serve. So then the answer is yes. So yes, I would love to do an interview and I'd love to serve in that capacity. And so it's, how do you juxtapose the Casanova versus the bringer of light? I don't know. I wouldn't frame it like that personally. I would say, like, how can I be of service? How may I be of, what would the divine have me be? How may I be of service? And sometimes for years it was focus on your work, focus on God, focus on your meditations. Now I'm in a healthy, safe, secure, functioning relationship, and a lot of what I do now is starting to go back.
By the way, that's rare. Like I think that's rare now. It's healthy, secure, functioning. That's pretty rare these days, dude. Like that's part of the reason I'm interviewing you, because you've achieved something that is rare. It's healthy, secure, and functioning.
And safe. And safe. And so these are not my words. A safe, secure, functioning relationship. And I don't know if he coined it, but he sure uses it. Is Dr. Statkin, Statkin. He's wrote several books. He's wrote Your Brain on Love, which basically talks about how love is actually an addiction, and you need to feed the addiction in order to stay in love. And it has to do with the dopaminergic responses. And
do you think that you're feeding the addiction to stay in love? Is that what you're saying or agreeing to, or is it?
He just draws an analogy or a metaphor. Well, no, he draws a direct comparison and says the endocrine system and the hormone reaction to being in love is very similar to like being on cocaine, and there's similar responses in the body. And just like you have to feed an addiction, you have to feed the love. And this is not new. Like if you read any books on relationships, like you have to feed the relationship. You have to nurture it. You have to take care of it. Like being a relationship is like a living entity. It's a breathing thing. And if you ignore it, just like if you ignore your houseplants, they will die, right? They don't get water, they don't get sunshine, they don't get nurtured, and they die. If you're So you have to nourish it, you have to nurture it, you want it to grow, so you need to give it the fertilizer and the soil and the sunlight and the water, and sometimes you have to change the soil and you have to change the pot when it grows. You need to prune it, you need to do all these things. You need to do all those things in relationships too. And one of those things after you learn about one another is you want to be able to connect with your partner in a way that nobody else can. And so when they're upset, for instance, when my partner's upset, they reach out to me, right? And I help regulate their system. I can literally regulate their nervous system, and anybody can do any of this. You just have to know how to regulate the nervous system, and you can read the book if you want to learn about that. And so when somebody is upset or they have a hard day, they turn to that which helps them be safe. And then when they do that, they get to I regulate her nervous system. Or the same thing with me. If something is very challenging, I reach out to her and she helps regulate my nervous system, and I calm down, or she calms down. She feels safe. She feels protected, right? I feel safe. I feel secure, right? And so those are roles that we provide and we play with each other. That's not the only role, but that's a role, and that's why it's a safe relationship, right? That's why it's safe. Secure functioning relationship means that like the relationship's never in jeopardy, right? So like we made a commitment to one another, and no matter what happens, no matter what I do, what I say, what I feel, what I think, or no matter what she does or what she feels, what she thinks, what she communicates, the relationship's not in jeopardy. So at no point do we ever threaten the relationship or say, okay, the relationship's over. And what that does is it moves out of me doing something out of fear of abandonment or fear of losing the relationship to being able to express myself honestly and openly, knowing that this is not in danger.
Right. How long have you been in your current relationship now? Like, what's your timeline so far?
I'd have to look at a calendar, but like about 3 months, so like one season.
That's pretty good. Like, I'm asking, I recommended that book, and it does have some pretty cool things. Like, look, man, like, I'll tell you this, dude, like, part of the reason I'm doing the interview is because I've done so much personal development, inner work, meditation, done so much research, like, and it seems like toxic relationships are easy to come. They're like a dime a dozen It's like, oh, there's one there, there's one there, and like having that, you said safe, secure, like one that you can almost build a family with. I guess that's kind of the best way to put it. Like one that looks like, you can have kids with this person. She seems like she wants to work family, nurture family. Like that's more rare nowadays, it seems, and that's part of the reason I'm doing this interview with you and discussing it because people, I think people like you and me, were clearly committed on a financial level to grow, and that's easy for people to do it. And we're dedicated to a spiritual growth, which is, I think, the harder element to do it because it's the unseen, it's the untangible. And so, if people like you and myself have struggles, I think that it's safe to say, like I think there's a toxic relationship will usually fall upon you when you're kind of laxly, sleeping around, trying to just date anything first person that comes to you. Like those things tend to get toxic quickly because of the drama, the jealousy, the possessiveness, the childhood wounds, all that shit, whatever. Either there's not enough stability in either part. So yeah, all about the book. Here we are, two guys looking to make sense of this kind of modern world, and it seems like found somebody that's having those good qualities. Um, is she into some of the same things you are, meditation, sports you're into? Like, where did you find this person at?
Sure. A very legitimate question, right? People are like, how do I find somebody that I'm compatible with? How do I find somebody that's interested in the same things that I'm interested in, so we can have similar goals and build a life together? Well, the first thing is, what in the world are you interested in? Right? I have to know what my interests are to find somebody who has similar interests. Right? And then the second thing is, what are the most important things to me? That's very important, because if I want somebody that has the same values as I do and I don't know what my values are, well, then that's impossible. Right? So what are my values? It's like I meditate every day, and it's not negotiable. Right? And so if I have somebody that has to be with me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that's not going to work. Right? So I need somebody so I need to meditate every day. So my partner needs to not only be okay with that, but I want them to support that. And ideally, they meditate too. I mean, they don't have to meditate on my schedule. They don't have to meditate every day. But meditation is a regular part of their life. Right? Because the most important thing to me is God. And that's my life. And those are my choices. And
she does meditate. Is your partner a fellow meditative practitioner?
Yeah, my partner is a fellow meditator. She meditates regularly, very regularly.
So did you meet where did you meet a fellow? Because where would you meet someone like that?
I met her in a class about energetic hygiene, and it was about how to clean organ chakras, meridians, nadis, and subtle bodies. It was all about energetic hygiene. We were in the same class. We were professional colleagues. We knew each other for about 18 months. And we just kept in touch, and then there was a natural progression, evolution of the relationship.
Oh, yeah, that's a nice one. I like the class, dude. The energetic hygiene.
and so I was, just doing what I love to do. That's all. I was just doing what I love to do. I met somebody in an environment, in a situational circumstance where I loved what I was doing, and we were at the same place at the same time. And a lot of the books say that. They say, it's very rare that you meet a partner in a bar or at a dance club. That seems to be a congregating place for social activity and dating. But if you ask a lot of married people where they met, very rarely do they say they met at a bar or a restaurant or a dance club. Right? That's typically not what occurs. Now, more and more nowadays, you say you met online, which is a very viable way to meet people. But even then, online, you have a profile, and you basically have you read it, and you have to exercise judgment, right? A lot of judgment and discernment, discrimination. These people have the same interests than I do, right? Is there a connection here? And then you spend time together, and there is or there isn't. So when you're doing what you love and you do it regularly and constantly and consistently, you tend to meet people And those people are similar-minded people, and that doesn't have to be a partner for romantic interest. It can be a wonderful friendship, or a comrade, or a companion, or someone that you only talk about that subject with, but they know a lot about it, so they become like a mentor, or maybe there's somebody curious and you can share with them your knowledge. There's all sorts of wonderful things that you can do by acting on your values, and by acting on your aims, and by being consistent with your aims, and your virtues and your philosophies. And when you start to live those things in your life, then all of life starts to conform, or rather it will literally start to reform, and materialize around the philosophies, around the virtues, around the things that you put all your time into. And when you put all of your time and resources and energy into a few aims, then everything else starts to mold around those things. And it almost would not have been possible to meet anybody outside of those ends in that realm, because there was virtually no time dedicated to any of that. And so eventually, as my life formed around those things, I met somebody in that field, right? Or somebody that was also interested in those things. Right?
Awesome. Thank you, Matt. Thank you. I do understand. So, okay, so what is your thoughts on, what do you know about, if I were to say, Matt, you live in the spot, what does that mean to you?
What, do I live in a spot?
No, in other words, if someone's going to say, Matt, you live in the spot,
Oh, spine. Sorry,
yeah.
I couldn't hear the word.
Yeah, what do you say to that, or what's your thoughts on that saying?
Oh, you live in the spine. Okay, so so in some ancient philosophies, like the front of the chakras are tomorrow, and the back of the chakras are yesterday, and the spine is the present. And so when you live in the spine, it's you live in the present, you live in now. Eckhart Tolle would say, like, the power of now, right? And so you want to be in the present. The present is a gift, right? Very cliche saying, but it's very true. Like, when you are living in the spine, you are centered. You're absolutely centered, and you're a pillar of light. And if we're speaking to males, then you are, if you're in the spine, then Shiva is flowing through, right? And you become Shiva, or the divine yang, the divine masculine principle, right? And if we're talking about females, then living in the spine, then that female, if they're in the present and in the spine, then they become Shakti, right? Or Prakriti, right? The divine yin, or the divine feminine principle, right? And so living in the spine is being in tune with the divine, and being centered in the divine, and allowing that to flow through. Paramahansa Yogananda would say, the spine and the brain are the altars of God. The spine and the brain are the altars of God. And Kriya Yoga, which is a breath technique, it all centers in the spine, right? It all centers in moving the prana in the spine. And there's lots of meditation techniques that center in moving the prana in the spine.
Do you think that conserving sexual energy, in other words, sexual transmutation, I don't know what you know about it, but for the most part, it's about conserving sexual energy, not releasing into an orgasm, say, and using that energy for everything, which is to magnetize, to attract a partner, to harness creative energy for an endeavor, business, or anything, art, whatever, and also attracting someone more aligned with your soul. Some people might call it a soulmate, etc. What's your thoughts on this concept of sexual transmutation? Do you have any opinion on it?
Well, I can definitely share some things that I've learned and that have been taught to me. So there's conservation, which is one principle. There's transmutation, which is a different principle. These are not the same thing at all. In fact, they're very different. Like, I can store something and it cannot be utilized, or I can utilize something until it's depleted. And so these are separate concepts, and it needs to be understood. And because they have different actions that go with them. So one of the wonderful teachers, he comes to LA every year. You can get his books, you can get his seminars. It's called Mantak Chia, and he teaches transmutation of sexual energy for both males, females, and couples. He teaches the microcosmic, the macrocosmic orbit, wonderful teachings. And he teaches transmutation of sexual energy. And that is when you take the sexual prana or energy and you move it up the spine, right? So if you want to be centered in the spine, then you want all the prana flowing up. When all the prana flows up, you can concentrate on God, and God starts flowing through. So the prana, it either goes down and out or it goes in and up. It's got to go somewhere. Prana is not stagnant, right, by its very nature. And so to transmute, well, okay, so to conserve first, so conservation of energy, we want to basically not be wanton with it, right? Not to waste it. What is wasting? Like overuse and overuse. Paramahansa Yogananda would say, if you learn to harness the sex force, you could unseat the moon from its orbit. That's how strong it is. Right?
Okay, so, say that again.
If you could learn to harness the sex force, you could unseat the moon from its orbit.
Excellent.
So the sex prana, do I have a coin here? The sex prana is, we'll just call it like the sex prana, this side, is like a trolley cart, and the sex prana moves up and down the spine. Now the kundalini is this side. The kundalini is the passenger in the trolley cart. The reason the sex force is so strong is because that's the prana that can move up the spine, and it's the prana that can move up the spine with the kundalini. So the kundalini, which is wrapped 3.5 times around the base of the spine, literally gets, if this is the trolley cart, right, if this is the sex force, the kundalini gets inside, okay, and then it can move up the spine, right? Master Chokaksui would say it's two sides of the same coin. Here's your sex force, and here's the kundalini.
Have you have any experience with this? Because I've actually tapped into this over the course of 4 years. I've managed to make some progress in it to the point where I'll literally feel like all of that prana, almost like digging into like this reptilian brain aspect part of me, it like starts, now, and if I don't meditate, I notice that like it wants to dissipate everywhere. Like I have to dial it in, harness it into the spine. What's your thoughts on this?
That's awesome. Keep doing that. That's great. If you want to enhance it, you can get Mantak Chia's book, Taoist Transmutation. Wait, what is it called? Oh, Cultivating Male. I think it's Taoist Transmutation of Male Sexual Energy, but the title could be wrong. He's written a lot of books. Sometimes I confuse. I'm slightly dyslexic, and so like I flip and invert words and numbers and stuff. So, but it's something like this. And if you read that book, I mean, you can just skip to the technique part and read the technique chapter and start practicing that. But it's a good book to read. And so yeah, so the sex force naturally goes down and out. Like that's its biological mechanism. That's the way. That's a natural drive. That's the animalistic drive. That's normal. Most people think that is an impulse. It's a biological impulse, and it has to be transmuted or sublimated over time. And so people who are dating a lot of women or having a lot of sex, doing all these things, they are absolutely acting out that impulse, absolutely acting it out. And by definition, they're acting out that sexual impulse. That is what the sex prana does naturally. It's an animalistic tendency. It's an impulse, and that's what they're doing. That's fine. That's their choice. Everybody has free will. Anybody can do that. Lots of people are doing it. Now, you can learn these techniques and you can consciously transmute it, and that's fine. That's a choice. That's free will. And you can transmute that prana, and then you can start to flow it up. And yes, I've also had that experience about it coming to the brain, and you can start to feel things open up. And when things open up here, more stuff starts to flow down. And as more stuff starts to flow down, more divine prana flows down, acts as fertilizer. And as it flows down through the spine, it starts to fertilize all those different chakras. And what does fertilizer do? It helps them grow, helps them be healthier, it helps them be stronger. So like there's more light coming down, right? And then you can pull it back up again. And so you can start this process, this up and down process. and that is part of the sexual transmutation that Mantak Chia teaches. He also teaches the microcosmic orbit, which is very different. But yeah, you can pull it up. There's a technique where you clench the PC muscles, which is the pelvic floor, right? So you contract the PC muscles. If you don't know how to do that, just Google it. There's lots of good information. I know you do. So you contract the PC muscles, and then basically you focus there for a minute, and like you're pulling in the sexual prana. And so when you focus there, you're like gathering it, basically. You're gathering it. So then you draw it up, and you draw it up to the crown. These are Mantak Chia's teachings, right? You draw it up the spine, and it's like a viscous. That's not a good word. It's like a very thick, slow-moving prana at first. Over time it changes, but at first, so you focus there, and then at the perineum, and then you draw it up the spine to the crown, and then as you inhale, and then as you exhale, you allow it to come back down to the perineum. And there's all sorts of things you do before that to cultivate it and gather it there, which you can learn in the book. But that is the actual transmutation technique of that whole protocol. It's a several step protocol. It doesn't take very long. I do it every morning. It takes like a couple minutes. And so, well, not every morning, but I do it regularly, like, more days a week than not. And so you can pull it up and then let it back down, right? And that is the transmutation of the prana. That is a transmutation of the sexual alchemy.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the transmutation of the sexual prana.
Okay, so I totally got it. A lot of people, I think it'd be, okay, so we've been studying stuff like this for years now, whether it's this book, this teaching, this meditation technique, this mantra, this, me and you've been studying this stuff for a while. Like I said, that's why we labeled it, we're yogis, we're talking about stuff, and, and dating and modern love and stuff. Let's just say, what do you think is the average reaction, as a whole, when just a guy, let's say he's 21 years old, and he's just talking about sexual transmutation, moving on up the spine to, what's your thoughts? Like, what do you think people? I think they would think we're kind of crazy. It sounds so abstract. It sounds abstract.
It is abstract because the West has no tangible relation to this. Therefore, it's abstract. It's not abstract in, say, Eastern culture. It's very real because they grew up with those stories and that philosophy on life. They grew up with stories that are tangibly related, but it's not tangibly relatable in the West. And so it is. I have no idea, dude. At 21, my whole goal was to get as drunk as I could every possible night. And that's not an exaggeration. And I have no idea. I mean, I couldn't even, we've been talking for like an hour and 15 minutes. Like, there's no way I could listen to this. I don't even know if, I mean, YouTube definitely existed, but it didn't really exist in this format. It was like, most of the things on YouTube were like videos of cats, and that's about it. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what a modern 21-year-old is like. And my experience at being 21 was like, I mean, I was super sick. I mean, again, my whole goal was to drink as much as I could every night to the point of blackout. So I have no idea.
Okay, well, let me imitate like the archetype.
Sure.
Okay. I'm gonna pretend I'm him, and I'm gonna react to what you said. Okay, cool. And then we'll have like a dialogue in that kind of acting.
Oh my God. Okay, all right.
Okay,
role play.
Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1, action. Man, Matt, that sounds crazy, bro. Moving sexual energy up the spine and the prana and the light and freaking crystal chakras and kundalini, man. That's wild shit. That's all bullshit, bro. You know what? I just want to go to a party, meet some chicks, bro. Let's go ahead. So, like, you know what I mean? Like, there you go. That's his reaction to it. I think that's someone out there would say something.
Okay. I understand your question. Well, if somebody actually said those words to me, I'd be like, well, then you should go to that party because you're immediately dismissive and you have no interest in this. And you said it's false. You said you don't have interest in it, and instead you're going to go drink. You're like, well, there's nothing to talk about. Like nothing I say is going to change your mind. But I understand what you're getting at, and so then it becomes okay. So I'll ask you a question. Do you like having sex?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you wish you could have sex longer?
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. Do you wish that you could orgasm? You know, the feeling of orgasm, in fact, is separate from ejaculation. Do you wish that you could orgasm multiple times before ejaculating? Yeah. Okay. So this technique and these protocols, when practiced regularly, if you practice them more days a week than not, they will begin to build your ability to last longer when you do choose to copulate or have sex with another person. You will be able to, when performed regularly over time, when you practice this, just like jogging, when you practice over time, you will be able to orgasm and separate that from ejaculation. If you choose to practice, to read that book and another book, and you practice those techniques in that book, you will be able in addition to do that, you'll be able to orgasm and then move that orgasmic prana around your body and increase the feeling and the intensity of the orgasm tenfold, and you can make it last 10 times longer, and then you can go back to having sex. Or also, all these practices can be done without a partner. Like you typically don't cultivate them without a partner. You cultivate them alone, and then you can practice them with a partner. And so you don't need a partner to cultivate the stuff. Like you do them alone.
What's the name of the book? What's the name of the book, Matt?
It's called. That's a good question. Let me look it up real quick. It's Mantak Chia, Mantak Chia, and I think it's called male trans. I don't have it on my Kindle. It's male transmutation of sexual energy.
Cool. So, I mean, is there anything? I know you have to go here in a bit. So, is there anything that you think that the world has? Do you think that the yogi philosophy still holds water in modern times? Like, here we are. You know, are we just out of date? Like, this modern culture seems to be so much about hooking up and just playing games and all that shit. And, you know, is a healthy relationship even like? I want one. It seems healthy. Like, I don't want to be fighting and shit on my fucking life. You know, like jealous and like, you know, I just don't want. You know, it's very taxing, bro. It's super taxing to get into it. Do you think that, you know, the yogi philosophy still holds water, holds merit in today's world, or are we just like old school dudes like trying to stay into some consciousness that has expired? Like that's a challenge.
Good question. So I want to answer the first. You asked, I think, 3 separate questions there, and so the book is called Taoist. That's spelled with a T. Taoist Secrets of Love: Cultivating Male Sexual Energy. Taoist Secrets of Love: Cultivating Male Sexual Energy. In my old school, am I living in society and modern culture? Well, I am a modern human being living in modern culture by definition, right? Because if I'm alive now, I'm in this culture, and so I have to live now. Am I old school? I've been called that a lot. That's for sure. But I'll say this: there's a book by David Data.
I know about it. The Way Experiment.
Absolutely, and gratitude to David Data, and he talks about the divine masculine principle. Manifested as Shiva, and so, and that book definitely changed my life and my relation to males and to females in relationships, and it definitely taught me that a lot of the things that are propagated and promoted and pushed by modern culture have been found to be historically inaccurate and false in ways, specifically in ways that a man. That a man allows the divine masculine to flow through, when I say man, I mean male. When a male allows the divine masculine to flow through, and that males in their relation to females, and that book really opened my eyes to a lot of things and opened my heart and gave me a map in which to relate to the female and in which to actualize and walk forward in my life.
What year did you read it? What year did you read that? So I read it.
2018.
I read it in 2014, man, and it changed my life too. And that's, again, this is why I wanted to do the interview, because it's as if we're like running parallel to each other in this path. We don't talk very much. Like, we're both meditating, we're both working, we're both like driven to achieve these, expand Shiva energy. And so here we are running parallel to each other on this path, and we have one teacher that united us, which is Yogi. And yet we have similar teachers throughout our life. And I'm like, dude, I gotta talk to this guy again, because I mean, that doesn't happen too often, right? Where you have some of the same teachers impacting you in very similar ways. Am I right? Because that doesn't happen too often.
Yes, it's not common, and it's a gift. You know, it's a gift. It's a divine gift, and I'm grateful, and grateful with our friendship, and the more single focused we are in those areas, the more people we'll meet that have similar teachers, and those are wonderful things. The few people that have read that book have said similar things that you and I have said. You know, our experience is not unique. They're like this book changed my life. You know, and they're not like, oh yeah, I really enjoyed reading that book. They're like, that book is awesome. You know, like everybody that I've read that loves it, like I mean that has read it, like loves that book, and it did. And getting back to the original question, I'm going to try to bring it full circle, which is in what way and what is the way in which I, as a modern human being, relate to culture, and not go back to being quote unquote old school? It's through that book, right? That is one of the books that is critical in my life and the way that I relate to not just females but to culture. And it's what is my purpose of life? And David Data says the purpose of the divine masculine is to meditate on God and form union with God. And that is the purpose of the divine masculine. Now, what is the purpose of a yogi? To meditate on God. They're the same. Right? So now all of a sudden I read this book that's speaking of that's using the language of a philosophy I'd already been applying in my life. And I was like, yes, this is it. And it's like, I need to be focused on God. And my vocation is a result of what comes through in meditation. God, what do you want me to be? What do you want me to be? What do you want me to be? How may I serve you? How may I serve you? How may I serve you? What would you have me be? It's like, go back to school, get another degree, right? I don't want to go back to school. It doesn't matter. That's what came through in meditation. So now I'm in school. I'm in a doctorate program, doing research, writing papers and stuff. And so I'm doing that not because I want to do that or I thought that'd be beneficial. Or I thought that'd be a good career move. I did that because it came through in meditation, because the purpose of the divine masculine is to meditate on God. And when I did that, when I took action on that, when I took action on becoming a subject matter expert in stress management, when I took action on conducting these experiments, writing these papers, when I took action on teaching, and I started to go, I've taught at various different places. When I took action on those things, all of a sudden, different people started to flow into my life, and I met the person that I'm with at present. And so it is in meditating on the divine and then acting on that which flows through that allows for these other things like healthy relationships with females to work. Now, I could not have done it without David Data's book, without Mantak Jia's book, without Paramahansa Yogananda's book, without Yogi Raj Gurunath Siddhanath's book. I could not have done it without Corey Wayne's books. There's so many resources out there that I needed to read and to apply. I could not have done it without Dr. Statkin's book. We both read that book. We both read that book, and so we have a common language to communicate with and a common way to understand relationships. And that is of paramount importance. Like, people have to speak the same language and have similar values.
Are you talking about you and your woman both read that book?
Yes, 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 yes. But it's true in friendships as well. You don't have long lasting, sustaining, healthy friendships if you speak different languages and have different values, right? Which is one of the reasons why, even though we don't talk very much, when we do talk, like, there's a strong connection. We trust one another. We're honest with one another, right? And we totally understand one another because we speak the same language, right? We have relation points and things like this. And so it's not about me being the type of male that's presented in media and culture and music. It's like, what in the world am I going to do to be happy? And none of that shit brings me any happiness. I tried it and it failed. Right? I failed. I was miserable. I was a miserable, selfish, narcissistic individual. And I was an alcoholic. And I had to get sober, and I had to look at myself, and I had to clean up my side of the street, and I had to make all my amends. I drove all around the country doing that. And my life run on my will. I ran it into the ground, and it was an absolute and complete and total disaster. And there was nothing left. And so, and even through it all, I meditated through it all. I would wake up in the morning hungover and meditate. That's how important it was to me, but I couldn't stop drinking, right? So I did the 12 steps, and God removed the desire to drink. I haven't had a drink in years and years, and God removed that, right? And that's a testament to that program, and that program works. And you can do Main Tak Chia's transmutation of sexual alchemy, and if you do that regularly, you will find in your own body, you'll experience that it works. You don't have to believe anything that we're talking about. All y'all who are watching, it's like, dude, get this stuff and try it and see what it's like. Like, your body is like your own whole laboratory. You can do whatever you want with it and have all these cool experiments and get all these cool and see what happens. Like practice those techniques, and if you like them, keep practicing them, right? Get those lessons and read those lessons, and if you like them, keep reading them. You can try different stuff. And so, lost my train of thought.
Matt, you're good, man. I mean, there's more to talk about, but I want you to stick to your schedule. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Like, this hookup culture in the end, have you seen an increase in hookup culture in the last 10 years? Have you seen an increase in hookup culture, or is that on the way out? Is that passe? Like, what's your thoughts on hookup culture?
I don't know, in all honesty, I really don't. But I can say that, like, there's lots of cultural norms and taboos and expectations and actions that, when I take, don't provide any type of happiness or gratitude or stability. And they detract me from the divine. And so my focus on meditating every day and on the divine is paramount. And then everything else gets filtered, like, because that's at the top of my pyramid, everything else gets filtered through that. So it's like, what's culturally appropriate? Does it add or take away from this? It takes away. Well, then I'm not doing it. And I don't care what's culturally appropriate or what the culture environment says. Now, that's not easy. That's hard. And, like, I've definitely gone through, like, pains with it and suffering.
But that's the important part. I think without that part of pain and suffering, I think that you're not living people there. Like, come on, man. Like, there's a little bit of that, like, bite the bullet to it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard. You know, it's not easy to go against society and culture. It's flipping hard, especially if you have friends and all of their philosophies and values are, and you start to discover your own stuff and you bring it to them and they shoot it down. It's very easy to be like, oh, I can't do this anymore. You know, but it's like, who are you trying to be true to? Are you trying to be true to your friends, or are you trying to find your own values and what connects you to the divine? And those are not easy questions. You know, it's where are your values? And a lot of people, they say, no, I can't do this. I just want to be accepted by this group and have my friends, and that's fine. But I can also say that if you choose to be true and honor yourself and divine flowing through yourself, and you do those things, that either A, your friends will come to respect you for that even more, and they'll come to you for help, or they'll fall away and you'll get a whole new circle of friends that are infinitely healthier than the previous set of friends that you have, because they'll be aligned with the values that you have more. And you all can mutually amplify each other rather than mutually detract.
I want to give you credit for that. I think you're one of those friends that I've met in this life that came from, you know, I get questions like this and that. Like, people always, I mean, here, I think let's kind of shift a little bit into the church aspect. People that go to church, I like listening to Joel Osteen on Sundays, by the way. It's that. I really like his sermons, and then I'll meditate after. And now that said, some people that go to church locally, whether it's a Christian church or a Catholic church, a lot of them are like, Jacob, when are you going to come to church? And they kind of don't understand that I pretty much do go to church with my meditation. To me, I feel like it's not that I wouldn't like to do both. I'd like to join them, but it's like around that time I'm listening to my sermon and preparing, like getting my heart into space where it could focus on meditation. And I think that they sometimes think I'm going to hell because I meditate, because there's this controversial, look on like the meditation is part of the occult and like why would meditation be? That's not Christian. What's your thought? Have you ever had any backlash like this?
Absolutely, and I've been branded, like a great member of the congregation, and I've been branded like a terrible member of the congregation. But my goal wasn't to go there and be a member of the congregation. Well, I mean, it was at different points in my life, but now like the goal is to get to God, and at some point, it's very helpful to go meditate in a group. And be in a group that all is praying to the same deity.
Are you talking about self-realization fellowship church? Are you talking about a Catholic Christian church? What do you mean?
All the above. I mean, that experience is both has been in all churches, whether it's self-realization and fellowship, or Hardik Yoga, the Hamsa organization, Astara, whether it's at the church I can't remember the name of in. It's a Protestant church up in northern Wisconsin. I don't remember the name of it right now. It's like from my childhood. All of those things, you can go there and play the part, and then they can say that you're doing well, and they can accept you. But what's the goal? The goal of the church is to have a formal place for communion and contemplating God. But you can do that in your own heart, and God creates universes and then throws them away. God is not impressed by us building churches, right? God, who creates universes and suns and stars and planets, is not impressed by the church, right? But God will come to the church that we build in our hearts, right? To the temple. God will come to the temples that we build in our own hearts, and we dedicate our heart to the divine. Then the divine starts flowing through. Now, that is not to say that churches aren't important. They are, because when you walk in there, it has the vibration of that lineage. So you can go in there and you can feel God more. You can tune in more. And when I don't feel good or it is rough, like I can go to those places and tune in easier. And it's a place of sanctuary and health and healing. My goal is not the congregation. My goal is the divine. Now, it is important to have a community, right? It's important. It's hard to be alone. It's very hard. Most people who go and be alone, eventually they rejoin society, right? Eventually and it can be in like a tangential way, but eventually they come back, and even if they live on the outskirts, they still live on the outskirts.
Yeah, like I want to be the guy that goes to church. Like I really do. I just sometimes feel like, I have to pick between staying home and meditating or going to the Christian church. Sometimes I feel like the lecture doesn't do as much as like 20, 40 minutes of meditation. And I'm not trying to, like, I mean that sincerely, not like.
Yeah. That desire for belonging to a community and organization is very old. It's primordial. Like like back in the day. I mean, the brain is literally like built, like evolution happened, there's another layer to the brain. Evolution happened, there's another layer to the brain. Evolution happened, there's another layer to the brain. It doesn't matter if you're an evolution or creationist. Like, it's very evident that like the brain has evolved over time, and there's different layers that can be found in different animals with different types of evolution. And so what happens is that that's very primordial. Like, if you were not part of the group, that part of the brain says, if I'm alone, I'm going to die. And so that desire to be part of a group and part of the church and part of the community and part of the organization is very old, and it's very real, and it's very instinctual, and it's very biological. And it's real because if you're abandoned by the pack, you're going to die. You're prone to starvation. You're prone to predators. You're prone to not being able to get enough water. We hunted in packs, and so now you can't hunt in packs. You're not part of the pack, and they have a territory. Well, now you can't go in that territory, so now you got to go to a new territory that you don't know, and you may not find water in time to hydrate yourself. You may die of dehydration. If the body, like not being a part of something it causes a lot of stress on the system, and so it's very normal to want to go and be a part of it. And
I guess finding the right church for me. There's not a self-realization church. It's sort of like I'm in this weird space. Like, hey, cool, man. Where you just go to self-realization, or where do you go?
I do go to self-realization fellowship. Yeah. But I don't only go there. I go to all sorts of different churches. One of the things Yogananda taught is he says you should be able to go to the churches, the temples, the tabernacles, and you should be the kibbutzes, and you should be able to feel God in all of those places. Any denomination of Christianity, any denomination of Islam, any denomination of Buddhism, any denomination of Jainism or Sikhism or Judaism, you should be able to go in there and feel God. Now, a lot of that stuff is kind of like lost in self-realization fellowship. They're like, oh, come here, you don't need to go anywhere else. It's like, I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in what Paramahansa Yogananda taught, not necessarily your interpretations of what Paramahansa Yogananda taught. And that was a little flippant, but I go to other places and I get chastised for that a lot. And you know what? It's like, get out of here. Like, who are you to tell me, on what authority do you have to cast that judgment and that criticism? On what authority? And it's like that silly stuff. Like, my goal is to get to God, and you're not going to help me get to God. And I'm not interested in your judgments, in your praise, or in your criticism. Now, if they are criticizing me, one of the things that Swami Sri Yukteswarji said as a guru of Paramahansa Yogananda was analyze it carefully and choose only those things that are accurate and discard the rest. And I do find that sometimes, a lot of times, there are elements of truth in what they're saying, right? And that I can take that and use that to help myself. But a lot of times they're just like talking about what they want and their own neurotic tendencies, instead of saying, I want to be here all the time and be a better person, better member of the church. They say, you should be here all the time and be a better member of the church. And it's like, they just replace I for you. And it's like, well, that doesn't have anything to do with me. What are you talking about? Better member in what regard? It's silly stuff. And so it's important to be able to discern like other people's neurotic tendencies, my own neurotic tendencies, and like what's the truth or what's real, and what's coming through in the situation that can be a benefit. Sometimes it's nothing, and sometimes it's, wow, this was super helpful. I'm really glad that happened.
I got most of the questions. Like I said, I'm one of respect to time. So one of the last questions, this could be definitely the last question. Do you think the battle of the sexes exists, or are you above it? Or in other words, battle of the sexes.
The battle of the sexes?
Yeah. Is that something that exists for you, or are you out of that tension? Because that's like going into Data's book, tension, the testing of the females to the males, and his like Shiva, and all that. You know what I'm getting at?
Sure. So David Data, he tames it in terms of, but he tames it sexual attention, which is a result of polarity. So when you say the battle of the sexes, what are you talking about? Are you talking about like that modern whole argument between the genders? I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Yeah, I think it's all of it, man. I think it's the whole thing, dude. Of like, I think that if you look at today's like for example, there's people that think all men are bad just because you're a man, you're bad. Like that's a toxic masculinity as a term. I mean, so that to me comes from the battle. The origin of that construct is the battle of the sexes, the political tension between the two parties, all that. So because again, you're a yogi, you're a well-read yogi, you're into stress reduction. I mean, you're into serving God. So so your viewpoint on this is quite valuable, right? Because
I don't know if my viewpoint's valuable. Well, maybe people find valuable.
I wouldn't be asking about it if it valuable.
Oh, I'll respond I'm happy to provide a response, and I hope it's of value. And so um, look, it's like, 98% of the genetic structure is the same. The difference is the biological difference between the male and female on a genetic structure is very small, and on a biological structure, I think it's like 5% differences between male and female. So you're talking about 95% of the same thing. So for somebody to say like all male sex is evil, like you just condemn 95% of your own being. Like, that is ridiculous. That doesn't make any sense on any level whatsoever. And to condemn something categorically as right versus wrong or good versus evil is preposterous. To disregard an entire half of a species and say like they're wrong and the other is right categorically, it's like, well, what kind of evidence and proof do you have of that? I don't mean your own personal experiences. Like where does that come from? And oftentimes it doesn't exist. And look, there have been lots of injustices perpetrated against sexes by males to females. That's not justified. That's not okay. But that doesn't mean that all males are therefore categorically evil. That's silly stuff. There have been great evils committed to all sorts of ethnic groups, to all sorts of races, to all sorts of peoples of faith, of different creeds, of different religions. That doesn't mean that those people were necessarily evil. Now that act could have been an evil act, and those people could be ignorant, but that doesn't mean that they were categorically like worthless. Like, I have 23 chromosomes from my mother and 23 chromosomes from my father, and every human being, with the exception of a few like abnormalities, has 46 chromosomes. Now, to say that 23 of those chromosomes are terrible and that you should get rid of them, like, well, then you're not a Homo sapien. You can't just like throw out half your chromosomes. Like, it doesn't work.
Right. So I guess it's fair to say that the people making these arguments aren't necessarily thinking of a scientific reality. I think it's more of a political, gender-driven fight for power, man. I don't think it's a logical, like, well, I'm a Homo sapien, I have these 23 chromosomes. I think, like I said, that's why I said you would bring value to the answer, because you went down to the science, right? But I think that the arguments of like the concept of not toxic masculinity is not coming from a place of science. It's coming from a place of desire for power, or power struggle, or to take power, or there's this. It's an agenda. It's not a scientific proof that is trying to be given.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And the fact that people are upset, people have a right to be upset. It can be justified anger, but then it's like, what do you do with that anger? Well, if it turns into rage and then you get upset at half of the population, you're like, well, I could generally say that that's not very healthy if you're upset at half of the population on the planet. Like, maybe there's something in there that you can improve in yourself so you could heal some of that and not be angry at 4 billion people. The goal is God, and every person on the planet has the same chakras, meridians, nadis, and subtle bodies, and 98% of the same organs. And so the similarities are so vast, and the differences are so minute, but they're being hyper amplified, and they're being and the differences are being telescoped now and blasted all over the world, and people are hyper focused on the minutia differences, and it's like, yeah, but what unites us? What unites us, like, as a humanity, as a species? What unites us is the breath. Like, we all breathe. Like, we can all believe in the breath. Like, I have. This is Yogi Raj Guru Nath teaching. He's like, I have not gone to a Jewish temple for days, and nothing happened. I've not gone to a Christian temple. I went there and I prayed. I didn't go back for days. Nothing happened. When I was living in India, I went to a Tibetan temple, the Temple of Dalai Lama. I was living in the town for a while, and then I didn't go for days, and nothing happened. I came here and I went to Self-Realization Fellowship Ashram, and I went there for several days, and then I didn't go for days, and nothing happened. I tried to hold my breath for 3 minutes, and I almost died. So what is the thing that unites us? Is what unites us is our breath. Again, these are Guru Nath teachings, and we can find commonality in our breath. Like we have to breathe, and so we can breathe a breath of peace, and we can breathe a breath of love, and so we can just inhale love, exhale love, right? Or you can use peace. Right? Or you can translate it into any language. We can use the thing that unites all of humanity rather than focusing on the minutiae differences. And that's not to say that there aren't definitive biological, emotional, mental differences. There are, they're small. And that's not to say that there haven't been injustices. There are, but they're small. Well, I mean, there are, but the goal is not to hyper-focus on the aggression or the injustice. The goal is forgiveness and peace, and to evolve and to transmute and alchemize that into something healthy and positive that's going to help the individual's evolution. And if enough individuals evolve, then all of humanity evolves.
I think we hit all of the key factors. I look forward to round 2. Hopefully, we don't have to wait a year. I think the last time we talked was 2016 or 17. So I think it's going to be a great value to people to listen to this interview. I'll be sharing it with friends. And yeah, man, thank you so much, Matt. Do you have anything to say before we go? Or we've done 2 hours. We've done 2 hours virtually. So this was a good long one.
I would say, first of all, keep breathing. It's very important. It's actually a key factor in stress reduction is to keep breathing, and find something that you're interested in, and consciously work on improving your life. Like choose a domain or an area of your life that you like. If you close your eyes right now, you can think of several things that you can improve in your life, even if it's just like cleaning your room. Like these can be very simple things. Then like go and do that. Go and do that. Like accomplish that. Like whatever it is, go accomplish that and begin improving your life. And if you can start doing micro improvements, eventually those build up to like large scale improvements in your life. You can become healthier and you can become happier. And you can start by doing the things that you know ought to be done or would be healthier if they were done. And then if you choose, you can go and you can read any of those books that we talked about and these lineages we discussed, these philosophies that we've talked about. And you can start reading those and you can start applying those in your life. And applying them is easy. All it means is that like you read about them and think about them in your day. And if you do that regularly, you're applying them in your life. And you can become healthier. Like the power is flowing through you. The ability is flowing through you to improve your life in whatever manner in which that you want. And if you visualize the best version of yourself you could possibly visualize, and you work in several years and you keep working at that, the best possible version of yourself that you can imagine is so infinitely far beyond the concept that you have at present that it's also impossible to conceptualize. Like your ability to get healthier and to improve is limited by nothing. By nothing. You have every opportunity and every advantage. And it's not that you don't face hardships, you do, but it's in facing those hardships that the growth and the evolution comes from. And so much love to you. Much love to you and to all of you.
Thank you so much, Matt. That was awesome. You're awesome. Thank you for sharing your insights. You're a well-read person. Thank you for all the work you in the world and how people stress and get on a better path. I'm going to end this video and I'll say bye to you here at the end. But thank you for watching. Hopefully this gave you some insights. 2 yogis discussing modern love as best as possible without getting into any hot topics that were triggering anyone. Kept it as above the line as possible. So anyways, be good. We'll see you next time.